Hey guys, it's Kathy Heller. How are you? So I wanted to come on here and talk about something that is so essential, and this comes up a lot, and it dawned on me like we need to talk about it. I think that this has been mentioned on the podcast. I think that it's insinuated in every episode, but I think it's something that we need to full on talk about in a really concrete way. So here's the deal. I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know if you've ever had this thought in a very concrete way. I don't know if you've ever really realized that you think this, but people have a really hard time with the word money. It's very layered and burdened, and a lot of people feel like money is actually like a negative thing in the sense of like if you're going after it, or if you want to make a profit, or if you want to be financially stable from the thing that you love to do, that I'm telling you, like, I know part of you are saying, it's maybe thinking like, what do you mean? That sounds crazy. But I know because I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of stuff that comes up where people feel like a sense of shame or guilt around having that in their priority list. Like on some level, people think, you know, my priorities and my goals should just be fulfillment and purpose and making a difference in the world. And all of that is completely true, which is why we actually do need to have money pretty far up at the top, because when you have the money, you have the freedom to give and to think and to be creative and to play and to do your best work. And I believe, because I've seen it in my life and I've seen it in so many people's lives just over and over and over again, that it's completely doable and it's completely possible to make a living doing what you love. But I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I know I talk a lot about, you know, sort of the bigger picture of how I want you guys to feel purposeful and significant, and all of that is 100% true. And I don't want to sugarcoat the fact that at the same time, this is a show about getting to make a living, getting to make a profit, getting to make money, doing what it is that you love. Like at the end of the day, if you're able to make a living, if the money's coming in, if you're able to make a great living, not just like you're struggling, you know, this whole idea of a starving artist, like I'm just so over it. Like it's such a glorified thing. And on some level, people feel like if they're not a starving artist, are they less artistic? Are they a sellout? Like all of that stuff has just got to go. I don't agree with any of that. I feel like you can do both. I feel like I've met so many amazing people who are really, really doing cool stuff and are really smart and creative and are making a great living. And so I feel like that was a huge turning point for me in my own life. And I was able to, you know, take my kids on really nice vacations, and I was able to do things that I really always thought I wanted to do, but then I sort of became accustomed to it. Like I've become accustomed to staying at 5-star hotels. Like it's funny, like that never was like a thing, and now that's just sort of the way that I roll. And it's only because I was able to make a great living from music. And you know, we talk about things, and there's a lot of people out there talking about things, and I know this is a little bit weird, but since it's like sitting right here, I just want to show you, like once in a while from, you know, music, right? I get checks, okay? So there's a check, and so I get different checks for different things, you know, so I'm working on different projects, and all of the projects I work on are very profitable, right? And so I'm here to be an example. I'm here not to like throw it in your face. I'm here to show it to you, to say, this is what I want for everybody. Everybody should have this. Everybody should be making lots of money doing the thing that they love. And I believe that you were sort of directly in proportion rewarded for the stuff that you're really here to do. And I believe that when you follow your bliss and you do the thing that you love more than anything else, that's when the really big checks come, because you're really serving the world. And I want to teach you something about the economy, okay? This is the way it's worked since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of, if you go back and you're, you know, studying economics, since the beginning, since when people were like trading, like, you know, ships would come to port and people would trade what they had, since the beginning of economics till it is today, this is how it works. When you create something that you think is beautiful or awesome or helpful, and somebody else agrees that they think it's beautiful, they think it's useful, they think it either is something that they want to have, that's a piece of art, they also like it, they want that in their house, or that's a cookie, they want to eat that. When you do something that somebody else also finds valuable or beautiful or helpful, they pay you for that thing. Does that make sense? Great. So that's really simple, right? It's like that has to kind of go together. We have to create things that other people want or need, right? And it's kind of, those things could be interchangeable, although sometimes you don't need a piece of art, but you want it, or you don't need to take a dance class, but you want to. So I think that it's helpful to say it that way. But that actually is where you find your purpose, your mission, right? And Carrie said that this week on the podcast. Your mission is born when you find something that you love to do authentically, that lights you up, that makes you happy. And that thing that you love to do is something that the world wants, that the world needs. Now that's the opposite of selling out. That's called really finding a mission. That's finding the intersection. It's like a Venn diagram. That is the intersection of something that you love doing that the world wants, okay? That is you contributing. That's kind of serving a higher purpose. And so that is actually why you're gonna wind up really being able to make a living more than anything else. If, let's say you look at this differently, let's say you decide that, maybe you don't believe that. So you're going to take a practical job and you're going to sit at a desk. Now, I'm not saying everybody should just run out today and quit their jobs, because I do believe that we can be strategic and create a runway for ourselves so that we actually have more time to be creative and less time stressing over bills, and we can sort of set it up that way. And eventually that side hustle becomes a full-time thing, which is what I did in my life, and which is what a lot of people who have been on my show did. Bobby Brown was waiting tables and Jonathan Adler had day jobs. Like, this is something that everybody at some point, it's a reality. But what I am saying is, if we stayed there, stuck and settling and doing something we don't like, we aren't going to make the most money we can make, because chances are we're not lit up if we're settling. We're not doing those things that we fully love to do. So we haven't quite hit on that magic, that purpose, that thing that we love to do that the world needs. Now, it can take some testing, right? To try to figure out what is that thing that you love. It can take some seeking. It can take some exploring. Maybe you're trying photography and then you realize it's watercolor, or maybe you realize it's bookbinding, or maybe you realize it's making soaps or lotions. We had many different guests on the show who talked about their journeys. Christine Griffin Grimes, who owns the company French Girl Organics, actually have her perfume here. Where's this? So she sells this in all, this is her product. It smells so good. There's the label, French Girl. So she sells this, and she's in every, so good. She's in every single Anthropologie around the world. And she started with this like love of France and wanting to embody that and put that into something. And so she started with knitting, and she called it French Girl Knits. And she did a lot of knitting. She actually wrote a couple of books on knitting. She realized like knitting wasn't quite it. And then she's like, what I really love to do is make salves and lotions. And she started playing around with jasmine and herbs, and she hit on it. She found it. It was something, it wasn't quite in her viewfinder to begin with, but when she started down the path and started doing her knitting, she actually spent some time in that and was soaking things up and trying things on. And she found her way over to the other things she wanted. So she called it French Girl Organics, and French Girl Organics was it. That was the thing she could do for hours and hours and hours. And so she was good at it, and she could actually spend the time on it to become great at it because she loved it so much. And she started making things that were really amazing. And you can tell things that somebody loves become amazing because they have the energy behind it. They can put in the time to make it amazing. And then she started her Etsy shop, and then her Etsy shop grew, and she said she was going to gross $1 million this year. Like, that's amazing, from making lotions, from playing with plants, right? She doesn't have like a degree in that. Nobody tapped her on the shoulder and told her she was an expert. She hadn't written a book on it. She just started and tried, and then she found her way there. And that was really what it was for her. And I do believe that sometimes it is a journey of figuring those things out, right? You have to figure it out. When I first came to Los Angeles, I thought, I want to be Carole King. I want to be Sarah Bareilles. I want to be on a stage. I love to speak to people. I love to sing. I love to write music. That's it. And then I was signed to a record label. I was dropped from the record label. I was like, well, this isn't working. And I found my way into writing music for film and TV. And I did that for a while. And then that didn't feel as fulfilling anymore as it did when I started. And then I said, okay, well, what else can I do? And I started speaking and working with songwriters. And that was really fun. And then I said, well, what if I work with other artists? And I just sort of did the very next thing, right? And so what I'm saying today, which I just feel like it needs to be said, is that making a profit, being really, really financially abundant with the thing that you love, is absolutely a goal, okay? Because the more you have of it, the more you can use the creative time that's now in your hands. Because, and Gretchen Rubin said this on the show, she's like, it's great to have money, not because, you know, her whole thing is happiness. She's like, not because money equals happiness, but because when you have money, you have the freedom, right? Money gives you that freedom. And so I want that to be something that is absolutely there. And I don't think it's either or. I don't think it's either I'm doing something that's, you know, beautiful and purposeful, or I'm making a living. I think that's a false choice. I think it's both. I think it can be, I want to figure out the sweet spot. I want to figure out the thing that I love to do, that I'm so excited and interested in, that I put in the time to become better and better and better. And then the world shouts back to me, yes, this is awesome. I want this art. I need this service. I love this business. I love these clothes. I love your jewelry. So you are able, absolutely, 100%. I've never done any better than when I just followed my bliss. And for all the people who told me to take these jobs, I'm like, I look back and I'm like, it's amazing. The day jobs that I had, even like good day jobs, you know, even my husband, who's an attorney, his job is sort of a certain amount. That's it. Like no matter how many hours he works, his company, they give him a salary. And even though he has a, you know, he makes a great salary and he's a VP, everybody who works that way, that's how it is. And things are changing. 40% of the workforce now works for themselves. Everything is different today. And it's not going to, I don't think it's going to ever be, ever again, that it's more secure to work for yourself. I think if you bet on yourself, you're going to be blown away at what you could accomplish. And so I want to remind you that that is definitely something not to be afraid or ashamed of. I think that it's absolutely something that's awesome. And the truth is, the more you have, the more generous you can be. Not only with can you like offer and give charity and, you know, help a family member, but you have more just like, you're not as stressed out, so you can be more generous with your time, with your ideas, with your advice. You also will inspire other people. Why shouldn't we be inspired by those people around us who are happily getting to do what they love and making a living? I know that a lot of people are taught when they're growing up that if somebody has money, then they must not be that nice. Or if somebody has money and they're doing something they love, well, there must be a catch. Well, I'm sure that it's true. I'm sure like there are poor people who are rude and there are people who have money that are rude. I'm sure it's like, it's all over the board. It depends on who you are, right? But I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think you can eat at nice restaurants and be a good person. I think that you can treat people really well and make beautiful things. I think that we can do all of those things. And I think that we can then be inspiring to other people to pursue what they love and to show the world that you can make so much, you know, of a difference doing what you love, because you'll be happy, which will just like fuel such incredible energy, which everybody else will feel. And you'll be doing the thing you love, and you should be able to make a living, a great living, doing what it is that you love. And I see this over and over and over again on my show. I just reached out to the woman who started the brand Hint. You know those drinks? I've drank them for a long time. I don't know if you guys know them. It's like this water, comes in these really pretty packaging, and it'll be like with like cucumber essence or watermelon essence. It's called Hint. And so I was reading about her in the news, and I reached out and she's like, sure, I'll be on the podcast. It's a great example of like, she was working at a corporate job, she was unhappy, she was drinking a lot of soda, and she thought to herself, like, I'd love to create something that didn't have sugar in it that I really liked. And now she's making a fortune and she's doing something she loves and she's helping people be healthier. It's just, why can't it be all of those things? And I think that's what the search has to be for. What is the thing that I can do that can be a business? See, there are a lot of ways to do what it is that I'm setting out to do, right? And some people might have said, oh, do a show to help people just find a passion and to do a project. And like, I was very conscious about wanting to make a show where it was about how you can make a living doing what you love, because we spend most of our time working and sleeping. And so I didn't want for this to only be a hobby. That's great. If that's what comes out of it, then that's also awesome. But what I'm hoping is that every single person will find that intersection of something that they love, and they'll be able to figure out how to be smart and strategic and serve an audience, whoever their audience is, with whatever they're creating, and make an amazing living doing what it is that they love. So it's really important that we get over ourselves and get over the thoughts in our head that have some weird thought and weirdness around money. Money is not a bad thing. And I know that for a lot of people, and I've had these conversations where people wind up in tears, and at first they're trying to tell me and they're trying to convince me and prove to me why money really is terrible. And I've had conversations with people where they're like, you don't understand. And by the time we're at the end of the conversation, what they told me is that growing up, money was the source of so much stress for their parents, or money was always a headache, or it was always a problem, or because, you know, I talked to somebody else who was like, because my dad wanted making money, he left. He started to get really cocky and he left the family, or he became, you know, really irresponsible. Like, I've heard so much stuff around it that we don't stop to think that sometimes as an adult, when you actually can make a new choice and have a new belief system, we're allowing these old thoughts to run our lives. And sometimes we're thinking that this is like so terrible. And so we're actually not pursuing it. Sometimes we're subconsciously not going after something we really could really benefit from and could allow us to be so much more creative and help the world so much more, because we have these like old beliefs that might actually not be true. And then there's other elements where it has to do with like confidence and what you think you're worth. And I hear this all the time. I hear from people like, well, how could I, you know, I have a friend and she's a voice teacher and she's great. She's a really, really good voice teacher. And she tells me what she charges. And she says that it's really hard to make ends meet. And I ask her why she doesn't up her price, let's say $30, because I know a lot of voice teachers in LA who charge 4 times what she charges. And she has a lot of self-doubt around putting that out there. And I know a lot of times when people are selling anything, whether it's their merch, whether they're, you know, doing a concert and they're selling merch at their table, they hesitate to tell their fans to go over to the merch table, or whether it's a person who's, you know, creating any kind of service or business, like that part is hard. And I think if you look behind what's there, there's some sense of like, do I deserve it? Am I being offensive? Is this being, it's like, no, have you ever gone to a concert of someone you love? You want to buy that person's t-shirt. You want to buy that person's record. You're not feeling like it's weird that they just say, hey guys, guess what? All the merch is here. Go get it. I would love for you to support it. I made it for you, right? It's like, that makes sense. So I think that we have to go back to the good stuff, which is the purpose stuff, because if you can really believe truly in your heart that you're doing something you love, and you know that the thing that you love is going to make the world brighter in some way, whether it's making cookies and those cookies are so delicious that other people want to buy them because they also love them, or if it's something like, you know, making jewelry, or if it's something like you're a stylist and you want to get your service out there and you want to walk into women's closets and help them save so much time and money because you want to help them look at what they already have and put stuff together, or you want to take them on a shopping spree and you want them, instead of trying on stuff and feeling like they're overweight or they don't look good, your service is like you want to take them into a store and say, these 3 colors look amazing on you, and make them feel so good about themselves. And that's so useful because they could spend less money on things that actually make them feel good than spending, you know, money on a few things that maybe, you know, didn't really work out. What I'm saying is, whatever is your service, your business, the thing that you love to do, if you can really understand and get behind the fact that you feel that this is creating value in the world, then you don't have to apologize for asking people to pay you what you think that that's worth. And that's the way the economy works. Every day, when you wake up and you go throughout your day, there's lots of things that you spend money on and you pay what you think they're worth, and you're so happy that they exist, right? Like there's certain coffee shops in Los Angeles that I frequent all the time, and I look forward to going in there. They're definitely providing a service for me. I'm so happy that they're there because there's certain coffee that just tastes heads and shoulders above others, and I love the experience, and so I want to pay them $4.50 for that coffee. Sometimes I'll pay $6 depending on what I'm getting, and I'm happy that they're selling it to me. You know, I'm not mad at them that they're asking to be paid for it. And then there's certain experiences that I do. I just bought tickets to go to this pop-up in LA. Sometimes we have these like pop-up museums. We had the Museum of Ice Cream, which came. It was here for a few months and it sold out. And now we have this Happy Museum. And I quickly bought tickets, right? And it's not cheap. I bought tickets for, you know, 7 of us, 'cause my parents be in town, and it was like $250. And I didn't think to myself, like, how dare they? I thought to myself, such a cool thing, right? I get to spend money and have this experience. And no, it wasn't $250 a ticket. It was like $30 a ticket. But that's what they decided it was worth. And you will find your tribe. There will be some people who look at you and say, I would never pay that to go and have an experience like that at your Happy Museum. That's fine. You don't need those people. There'll be other people who are like, $30, great. That sounds like a great way to spend the day. I'm excited about it. There are some people who are going to look at you. I mean, I have somebody in my life who works with me, and I actually said to him yesterday on the phone, knowing full well that I could have like a different result. I said to him, you don't charge me enough. You should charge me more. I said, I feel like I don't pay you enough. And he was like, oh, you know, it's fine, you know, what I'm doing. And I was like, no, you should charge more, because there's a certain part of me that for this particular thing, it's so valuable to me. I felt like he should charge more. So it doesn't matter if not everybody gets it. It doesn't matter if not everyone finds it valuable, and it doesn't matter if not everybody wants to pay you for it. You need to just find something that you love to do that you feel is going to serve some people, right? And so we don't need 7 billion people to get on board with your chips or your soda or your ice cream or your jewelry or your fashion design or your art or your songs. Not a problem. But you do need to look at who are the people who you're serving, who is your audience, who are the people who are going to find it useful or helpful or beautiful. And then definitely take that into consideration. And along the way, you test things and you try things and you sort of figure out who your tribe is. And then you definitely do have them in mind as you create things, because that is where you find purpose. Like I said, it's not selling out, it's the opposite. Because if people made things and did things that they loved and they found great, but the world said no, that the entire world, meaning like there wasn't even a certain tribe, a certain group of people that were into it, then that is very like sort of self-centered. It's not really doing stuff that like makes the world better, brighter, yummier, more colorful, right? So I think that we do want to have a sense of purpose, and I think we get purpose from doing stuff that makes the world more delicious. And so I think that, you know, Greg Mendel was here, he has a bakery, and he said he grew up thinking, I just want to do an honest task. And he thought, you know, making a cookie for someone and then handing it over and the person puts it in their mouth and likes it, he's like, it's just honest. It's just an honest, simple thing that I can do that makes somebody have a better day, right? Well, that's enough. You don't have to be a therapist to change the world. You can just do something that you really love. And if it serves, if it helps, if it enhances somebody else's day, not only will you enjoy it, but you'll then feel a sense of purpose, especially when you get to sometimes connect with those people who bought your art or enjoy your service or like your business, whatever it is, right? And that's where that Venn diagram comes together. And so I think that having economics in mind, I think the people who've been on my show who think big picture and they think, absolutely, I want to make money, a lot of money. I want to be able to have the freedom to fully do the thing I love. I don't want to have to only do it as a side hustle. I want to do it full time, which means I need to make a full-time living from it, and then hopefully more and more so I can hire more people to work on this, more people who might be excited and inspired who want to work with me, and I want to grow this team, and I want to help other people be inspired to work towards what they want. And then hopefully if I'm a great leader, they'll be here for a little while and then they'll go on their way. They'll go on their way to start their own thing, their own business, but hopefully I can help be sort of a vehicle, right? And so if that's the case, then money is essential. It's essential because it gives you time. That's what it does. It gives you the time. So I just wanted to talk about it for a minute because I think that we can sometimes overlook that there are these thoughts in our mind surrounding money which are just not necessarily helpful, and I wanted to call them into the light. And I want to do something in the beginning of this year. I'm working on it right now, and I'm going to let you know when it's all coming together, but I'm going to give you guys some sort of like cheat sheets and tips and worksheets around sort of breaking this into pieces, because I get calls from people all the time and messages and emails, people asking me, okay, well, here's what I think I want to do. How do I make this a business? And for me, I don't know, it's just so like, that's one of my gifts. I can see something that somebody likes and see how it's a business. And so I'll give you an example. So I got a call yesterday from a listener, and she was great. She was so sweet. She told me her whole story, and I couldn't believe how she told me. So she used to be working at this corporate job, and from just the stress of her, the way her position every day, she was like always standing up at a desk, like with her elbows on the table like this or like this. She, just from the stress and the wear and tear of doing that job for years and years and years, she had to have 2 surgeries on her elbows just from standing at a desk. Like, isn't that awful? It's terrible. And so she had known for a long time that she was really unhappy and she was feeling really unfulfilled. But then she said, I think my body finally like shouted at me and said, stop doing this. You're literally in distress. Like, your body can't handle standing in this position. Like, we are not robots. We're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be creative and excited and passionate, moving around and creating things. Like, we're not supposed to be standing at a desk. You're not like a piece of machinery. You're a human being, right? So she said to me, so I had these 2 surgeries and I had to take some time off work because I had to have the surgery. And she said it was actually cool because I got a break. You know, I got a break from just standing there and feeling this like soul-sucking feeling. I can't imagine, like my heart goes out to everybody who has to be in that kind of a situation. It just sucks. And so what I'm trying to do is help you make that not a lifetime thing, you know, to make it really temporary. So I said to her, so what do you think you want to do? She goes, well, when this happened, I started to do some soul searching and I started looking for like what actually feels good. And what does happen often is people have been stuck in a situation for so long that they don't know what makes them happy or what they're passionate about because they haven't been using the muscle. They haven't been using that part of their brain. They haven't had the space to be even creative or inspired. They've actually just been, you know, busy doing something they don't like, and their time has been full of doing something they don't like. So there's a lot of just like, you know, stagnancy, and there's a lot of feelings of like, ugh. And so not a lot of inspiration comes in, right? And you start to shut off and you start to forget to even notice what you like because you're in this rut. So she said she started to explore things, and she started to explore things in sort of, I guess, like the wellness area, because that's what she needed. She was feeling like physically completely, you know, burned out. And she was telling me all the things that she explored. And one of the things she explored was like a friend of hers was Native American, and she's not, but her friend of hers is, and she invited her to this like sweat lodge where people like sit around and like they sweat things out, and it's really like detoxifying. And she thought that was really powerful. So she thought, is that a business? Then she thought, no, I don't know if that's a business. And then she was looking into other kinds of like wellness and spiritual things because she was so in need of it herself. And she wound up reading this book, and it's a great book, actually. The author is somebody who people talk to me about all the time. It's called The Whole30. Do you guys know this book? So she read this book called The Whole30, and it's all about like eating like healthy foods. It's just a book. It's not some weird like pyramid scheme. It's just a book on, I haven't read it myself, but I think it's about not eating sugar and not eating like gluten, and just, I guess, just eating whole foods that are really good for your body. And I think the idea is that if you do it for 30 days and you eat this way, it's really like detoxifying, and it helps your body sort of, you know, shed weight, but also just be healthier. And so she tells me she read this book, and then she had like huge results, and she lost all this weight, and then she started to tell people how passionate she was, that she wanted to help other people like to figure out how to do it in their own life. And she was talking to people, and people said, you know, that's amazing. I would love for you to be like sort of like a guide and a coach for me and help me, you know, move through like 30 days of that. Because some people will read about something like that and then not have the discipline to do it. Like I know when she told me, I was like, wow, you lost 12 pounds in a month? That's amazing. She's like, yeah, and I'm much healthier because I'm just cutting out like the gross stuff. I'm cutting out sugar. I'm cutting out, you know, stuff that my body doesn't really like. I'm just eating, you know, she's not eating any like weird shake or anything. She's just eating, you know, vegetables and chicken, protein, stuff like that. So she said it really works, but you have to be disciplined. So I said to her, well, that sounds like a huge business. Like that sounds like a huge business if you've had results. She goes, yeah, and I've actually now helped 3 or 4 friends, and they've done it because I've like helped them through those 30 days. I'm like, that's so amazing, you know. And she was like, yeah, I guess that is something that could be a business. And we started talking about like, how could she market that? Who could she put that out there to? And to me, it's like second nature. I just start thinking like, oh, you could create a Facebook group, and oh, the New Year's coming on, and that's a good time for people to be thinking about this. And you really can provide a service if you say to somebody, you know, this is what it's going to cost you, but I'm going to help hold your hand through that. I said, people might want to really pay you for that because it's sort of like their insurance policy that they know they're going to have accountability, which we know is everything, and they're going to then be able to actually see themselves through working towards that goal, right? Because if it's about not eating sugar, that is super hard. And I'm actually like trying it today. I'm like, how can I not eat sugar this week? You know, and it's not easy, but having somebody there, this is just one example. So she and I started to talk about the different ways she could do it. And I started to come up with like, all of a sudden, because I've done this just in different ways in my own life, I started giving her business ideas. I said, do you have a friend who has like a nice house, who might want to host? And people could come together and you could sort of give your testimony and then just give them some hacks of like how to make that happen. Like you'd be surprised, people might pay you $20 to come for the night and listen to what you have to say. And then you can know ahead of time that when you get there, you're gonna have it in mind to gather their email addresses. And then when the New Year comes, you'll offer them maybe this like 30-day membership thing, maybe with like a money back guarantee. Like you're gonna say, I guarantee I'll help you get results. If you don't, you can get the money back, something like that. She was like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's interesting. I talk to people all the time, and then we stumble on, you know, something that they think they love. And then I'm like, it's so obvious to me how they can make a big business out of it. And then I said to her, the thing is, you're just sort of getting back into the realm of like having the space to even think and explore. I said, maybe as you explore this, you'll realize that this was just something you were passionate about right now because you needed something to sort of be more about wellness and health because you know, you'd been in this job and you had surgeries and you were just sort of feeling like completely out of touch. But over the course of doing this just next thing, maybe it's not forever. Maybe it'll help you gain some confidence. It'll help you get out in front of people to help you help other people that sounds like you really want to do. And then over the time, you know, maybe you'll take some classes and other things. Maybe you'll take a yoga teacher training class. Maybe you'll take a nutrition class. And maybe you'll start to explore and you'll find something that you really love even more that you can like fully dive into. But I think it's completely, and she said as we were hanging up the, you know, because she called and she said, maybe I'll just spend some time playing with this in my mind. And that's something that people say a lot. It's like a saying, I'll spend some time, I'll play around with this in my head. I said, no, don't play around with it in your head. Play around with it in life. Like actually test things and put things out there, because what do you have to lose? You have a lot more to lose if you just put it in your head and like play around with it. You're not actually going to gain momentum. You're not going to learn. You're not going to get feedback. You're not going to get hands-on experience. But if you actually do something, let's say you're thinking about your photography and you want to, you know, start selling it. So instead of thinking and thinking and thinking, I would say to myself, okay, what could I do a collection on? You know, my sister-in-law, she did a collection on Coney Island, right? It's like, okay, I like Coney Island. I'm going to take 12 black and white photos of Coney Island. And then once I have, you know, a bunch of photos, I'm going to pick the best ones. And then I'm going to walk into 3 galleries and see if they're interested in putting this little presentation up on Coney Island. And you'd have a lot more to gain by just going through that process. Maybe you'd realize in that process that you're not the best person to develop the photos yourself. Or you spend some time realizing you love developing negatives, and actually that's a really fun part of the process, and you move through that quicker than you thought. Or maybe you start shooting all these photos and you realize it wasn't Coney Island that you wanted to shoot, it was really like the water, or it was really the kids, and you found a few kids who were like walking around there, and you decided to do something more like Humans of New York, and you decide that's really your passion. But you only know that because you started and you kept going, and as you're working through stuff, and this is the thing most people don't do. Most people stop and say to themselves, okay, where am I going to be exactly? What are the steps exactly? And if I don't know it, I don't want to look foolish, and I don't want to start before I know exactly where I'm headed, so I'm just not going to start, which is actually really not helpful. The best thing to do is like, so you start and you see what happens, and then you walk into the gallery and you see what the person says and you see how you feel, and you realize like, that was a little uncomfortable, but I got through it, and the person was nicer than I thought, and she said no, but she referred me to this other gallery, and next thing I know, I'm like, I have my photos up, and maybe they don't pick all 12, but they tell me that they'll pick one, and then they pick this one black and white photo of a Ferris wheel, and I go to the wine and cheese night, and it's the opening, and somebody bought it off the wall for $600. It's like, wow, I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot. Do you get what I'm saying? So I want you to be out there in the world testing things. Now, different businesses have like different ways of making sense, right? So for some people, if you're a photographer, that might be a great way to look into galleries, right? But if you're a fashion stylist person, then it might be much easier for you to do it a different way. It might be much easier for you to just start creating really cool content and creating a Facebook group for whoever your target is. Is your target women entrepreneurs? Then great, create a Facebook group for women entrepreneurs and how they can better find and dial in their styling. And then you can start to offer people consultations, or do you want to do it online, or do you want to do it where you buy stuff for people and ship them things? Like, we need to start thinking, but everything is doable, and it's exciting and it's fun. And what makes it easier than ever is that everybody's here. Everybody's on Facebook, everyone's on Instagram. So in the old days, it'd be really hard to find your tribe. Like, let's say you live in a small town in Wisconsin, it would be pretty hard to grow a business unless you like traveled all over. But now it's like, boom, open up your Instagram, open up your computer, you can affect people, you can create things, people can buy your pottery in Portland, and you can be living in, Nebraska. So it's awesome, it's exciting. I just want to look at your comments. Thank you for reminding us that we can do what we love and make more than enough money to survive. You absolutely can. That's the thing, is like, as sure as I'm sitting here, I mean, I can't believe how much money I'm able to make. And I don't even look at it like that anymore. I look at it like, oh, I'm just scratching the surface. Like, people, absolutely, you forget how You know, if you wanted to make a few $100,000 a year, it's totally doable. And it's actually amazing how you don't need like millions and hundreds of thousands of clients or fans or whatever, an audience, to make that much money. You just need like a small sliver, and then that starts to grow and grow, and you just keep following your bliss. And one thing that I think is really helpful is just do the next right step. Like, instead of worrying about, you know, overthinking it, it's like, what's the next thing that you possibly can do? Like, even right now, I was like, I'm working on a million things, you know. I'm working on chapters of my book, and I'm working on the courses, and I'm working on a licensing agency, and we do some, you know, placements and lots going on. But whenever I have a free moment, I'm like, okay, could I be working on this? Yes, yes, and yes. But I have this feeling to like go on Facebook. I'm going to do that right now. Or even when it was like last year and I didn't know the first thing about starting a podcast, I was like, I just feel like that's the next thing to do. So I'm just going to go. I'm just going to do it. And I don't know if I'm going to find my voice in the first moment, but I'm just going to trust that I will do it and I'll figure it out, right? And I'm talking to my agent right now about that stuff too. It's like, what's the next thing? It's like, the next thing is I need to be doing some speaking, and I need to be getting the word out there about the podcast and really helping people and really getting in the, like, in the trenches, like talking to people one-on-one and really helping people. Like, that really lights me up. So I'm like, I got a campaign, I got to get out there. And so, you know, I'm like, what are ways that we can put together events, and who are we going to be going for? Is it like women entrepreneurs? Is it creatives? Is it artists? And so we're excited and we're brainstorming, and it's like, okay, I don't know where that's going to lead, but I know that I'm going to plan like this big next event. I'm just going to do one and see what comes of it. And I'm going to put it together and call a venue and see if they want to have a day for, and I started thinking like, how can I make that work? And what are ways to make that, you know, something that's beneficial for the venue? And also, would I invite other speakers? Are there other people who have other cool, you know, tips and tricks and things to share that would complement what I have to say? It's like, oh, the sky is the limit. And it's like, what is the next thing you can create? That's the question. What is the next thing you can create? And you don't have to know the next 12 things, just do the next thing. Hi, Mikey says, what do you have to lose? So good. The fear of what if will always be great. Yeah, and it's true. It's like, we think so much about, you know, I'll tell you a silly, this is like gonna sound ridiculous, but I was at this like dinner party like a while ago. This was like a year ago. And as I was walking out of the party, I realized that I left my jacket, and my daughter was with me, and I had to get home. And so I take her home, and then when I got home, I was like, oh my gosh, I was invited there by a friend of a friend. So I was there to celebrate a friend's birthday, but it was being hosted at somebody's house I don't know. And I thought, I don't know those people, the hosts, but I left my jacket there. It is a jacket I really like. It was like an All Saints brand jacket. And I thought, I need to go back and knock on their door and be like, hi, not a big deal. You don't know me, but I left my jacket here at some point. And I've been so uncomfortable. This is such a silly thing, but it dawned on me this morning. I've been so uncomfortable about like knocking on the door of these people who wouldn't even care. They'd be like, oh, don't know you, but come on in. You left your, and instead it's like something about just like how much that makes me feel uncomfortable. I just like don't go get my jacket. And then months go by and I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, they wouldn't even care, but like there's something about it. There's a thought that I go, ugh, I don't know them, knock on their door in the middle of the day, and isn't that just ridiculous? It's ridiculous, and I thought that's a great example, because there are things in my life where the discomfort is so great, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't care, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then there's some things like that where it's like, or like going to the dentist. It's like, I know that I'm supposed to get my teeth cleaned twice a year, and I know that like I've been putting it off because it's uncomfortable. So I think to myself, oh, I should make an appointment. Oh, forget it, I'll wait till next week. Then I just don't do it, right? But there are things in our life where it's ridiculous to be that uncomfortable about what we have to lose, because there's so much more to gain, so much more to gain. And I feel like there's a part of all of us that's just like so tough and strong and brave and amazing and fearless. And we have to like somehow, you know, like remind ourselves, like, we've done way harder things. In fact, last night, because I was talking to this woman and she was telling me about this, this eating plan called the Whole30. I go on their website and I was really impressed, because they're talking about like how you should cut sugar out of your diet. And then at the bottom it says, now here's some tough love. And I thought this was so great. They're like, look, don't tell me it's too hard to not eat sugar. Don't tell me. And it was really good. They're like, there's so many harder things than not eating sugar. You know, like, what about losing a parent? What about going through this illness? What about blah, blah, blah? And I was like, damn, that is so true. And so it was like, it helps you change your mental sort of like, that little speech you tell yourself, because there are these sort of like things that we tell ourselves and then we just sort of like take them at face value. Like there are times where I've thought about like not eating sugar, let's say, and then I have this thought of like, oh, that's too hard. And then my brain goes, yep, too hard. I'm going to eat a Twix. I'm going to eat a Twix, right? It's like, and that's the same thing with business stuff. There are times where I have this idea to do something and then I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous because I'm going to look foolish. My brain goes, yep, looking foolish. And then it like just stops even giving you any sort of, you know, momentum around it. You just stop. It's just like the window closes and your brain doesn't continue to churn out ideas. And it's like, not true. And so often when it comes to my career, I'm able to like catch that and go for it anyway. But there are things in my life, and I thought that was so great on their website when they're like, let me help you change the way you think about not eating sugar. Like, get over it. It is not that hard. Yeah, you might say like, it's hard. Okay, it's hard. Not as hard as a million other things you've already gone through. And I was like, that's a very helpful thought, because as I go through this week and I try not to eat sugar, I'm going to think to myself every time my body is like, go eat it. I'm going to think to myself, it's not that hard. I can handle it. I've gone there way worse, right? It's like, it's just amazing how when you change the way you think about things, you're able to actually take different action because of how you think about it. And so to wrap up, I think that that's the same thing with money. And I think that when we think about what are the strategic things and ways that we can make a living, a great living, doing what it is that we love to do, there's part of us that feels like shame and like that's so not a good value. It's like, stop making such a judgment around it. That is an amazing thing. Money is great. Money gives you freedom. Money gives you flexibility. It gives you the time to be creative and to do this full time. So we definitely want to have that. We want to have our sights on it, and we want to think, and I want to leave you with this, the best way for you to make as much as you can is to figure out what do you love to do and how does that serve or uplift or make the world more beautiful or useful for somebody else. And when you find that intersection, it's all coming. And now it might be about what modalities do you need to use to get that out there. You know, are you going to be creating Facebook, you know, freebies and giving away content? Are you going to be doing concerts? Are you going to be putting things in galleries? Are you going to be doing videos? Are you going to be using Instagram to sell your pottery? And then those questions are really cool and interesting and fun to like dig your teeth into. And it's not helpful if your brain goes, oh, that's too overwhelming, all that tech stuff. I don't know the first thing about it. You know, creating those kinds of photos for Instagram, I'll forget it. It's like, no, how about saying like, that's a total challenge, but I'm going to figure it out. It's been done before. I'm sure I can figure it out. And you watch some YouTube videos and you learn a few things and you get some tricks about being accountable and setting up a plan and getting, you know, better at that. And you're like off to the races. So more to come, more to think about. Just wanted to check in. Hope that was helpful, and keep going because you have so much in you. And I'm just in love with all the listeners and all the emails I get. And I want to see you guys doing that stuff you love to do. I don't want to see anybody sitting at a desk and having elbow surgery because they just sit at a desk too long. Like, I want to see people out in the world and just making things and creating things and helping people and serving people and walking through Anthropologie with like a skip in their step. And like, that's what I want to see. And so I'm looking forward. Thank you for finally offering ad slots for me. Yeah, that's amazing. What is your podcast about? Send me a message. Tell me about it. I want to hear your podcast. So yeah, just keep working towards what's that very next thing. And I'm telling you, like, there are enough sunsets and sushi meals and great, you know, vacations. And there's so many people to be serving with you being the happiest you. I was literally so nervous at my computer right now finishing our sales page. That's awesome. Send it to me. Send me a link. I want to look at it. Okay. Also, if you have something you want to ask me, then you can ask me on our Google voicemail. And this is the number. I'll put it right now in the chat. You can call in and I can play this on the show and I can answer you, but do it like today or tomorrow and have no fear. Like, use this. I'm here. I'm here to be helpful and supportive and encouraging. So if you have something you want to ask me, call that number. I put it in the comments there, 323-736-1826, and say, hey, Kathy, here's my idea, or here's my question, or how do you think I can make this into a business, or what do you think I should do, and then I'll play it on the show and I'll answer you, because that's what Monday's episode will be all about. And I'm going to be doing some of those answerings tomorrow and Friday. So send me a Google voicemail if you want. Dreamers that do podcasts. Oh, cool. That's so fun. I love that you guys started a podcast. Awesome. Love reading your comments live. And I'm thinking about you and rooting for you. So if you have a business idea or a website or the idea for a blog and you just can't come up with a title and you just want to sort of like get the wheels in motion, like, I'm here to be a sounding board for any of that stuff too. I love, love, love talking about businesses and what you love and how to make a profit from it, because like that is, at the end of the day, the sweet spot. If you can make a living doing what you love, you will never work a day in your life. That is not a job. That is not a job. Doing what you love, it's not a job. It's your life's work. It's not work, it's your life's work, right? So that's what I want for everybody. Yay, I'm so excited that you guys are loving this. Great. So if you just came on, watch it from the beginning. Leave me a voicemail. I want this episode and I want future episodes to have you in it. I want you guys to call in and leave me a message so that I can answer you directly and that I'm here. I want this to be not just a podcast that you're listening to passively. I want this to be a place where you're like, okay, well, Kathy's there. And look, not everybody is taking, even though we have lots and lots of listeners, not everybody's taking me up on this. So take me up on it. If you have an idea for something and you're not quite sure how that's a business, or you're not quite sure what to do next, or you're not quite sure if that needs a website or a Facebook group, or you need to be reaching out to store or shop owners, or you need to be thinking about, ask me, run it by me. I'm happy to take the time to give you that help. And I think that our audience would love to hear you. So leave me a voicemail, 323-736-1826, and say, hey, this is Will. Here's what I'm thinking about. Hey, this is Jenny. Here's what I'm thinking about. I'll play it and I'll give you guys some, it's just, why not? We'll brainstorm together. And by the way, you guys can be, doing that with each other. You can set up masterminds with people. If you go to the Don't Keep Your Day Job Facebook group, post stuff there. People are really supportive and people will give you, it's just, at least it's a place to start talking about things and putting things out, which actually keeps you accountable. Why not use whatever you can, whatever tool? The new year is coming. It's coming so soon. And we can have an amazing year, but we're gonna have to take responsibility for it. We're not gonna wait for things to happen. We're gonna take responsibility to be inspired, and we're gonna take responsibility to take action. And we're gonna have to think about what the next action is, and we're gonna have to go for it, which means not overthinking things. And at the same time, it means trying and testing and experimenting and playing with things. So use me. I'm here to answer and support and give you suggestions or advice or help. And come to the Don't Keep Your Day Job Facebook group and post stuff there and have conversations and find an accountability partner and decide that you're going to meet up with that person once a week on your own time. Why not? Keep each other in, in a momentum. Why not? It's use it all, whatever works. Also, if you follow me on Instagram at Kathy.Heller, I will follow you back. So let me just post it here. There's my Instagram handle. And if you follow me there and then you private message me and say, follow me back, I'll follow you back because I want to follow you guys. I want to see what you're working on. I want to see what you guys are doing. I like it. It's a community. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.